welcome to another Crochet with Cris. Today's demonstration is going to be showing you how to do the shell stitch. Now a shell stitch comes in various designs. This is just called the easy shells. It is a very simple shell stitch, and you see it's tighter than some of the more open shell stitches. But a shell stitch itself is just defined as when you put more than 3 or more stitches into a single stitch from the previous row. But unlike a popcorn stitch or a clustered stitch, you keep the number of stitches across the top. So for every stitch you put into the stitch below, you leave the stitch on the top, so you're actually increasing. And this is why you have to skip and make sure that you have accommodated for all the stitches on the previous row, so your piece doesn't buckle or ruffle up. With a cluster stitch, what happens is you put them all into the same stitch, but you stitch them together at the top, so it creates more of a circle with one stitch on top going into one stitch on bottom. So we're going to go ahead and move into the shell stitch. This is just a swatch that I created. We're going to do it from scratch with a lighter yarn. Let me get it out of my ball here. Whenever I do my demonstrations, I keep a little bowl to the side to keep my ball in so it doesn't roll all over the place. But it's kind of scratchy on this new table, so I'm going to give myself a little leeway with the yarn. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a slip stitch and get the yarn onto our hook. So to do that, I create a circle, and then I take the tail and drop it behind that circle. Then I reach in with my hook and pull it tight like that, and then slide it up to the hook. Now I've cast onto my crochet hook. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead, and for this pattern you need a multiple of 4 plus 1. So what that means is you're going to do a base number of stitches that are a multiple of 4, so 4, 8, 12, 16, and then you're going to add one more stitch once you've done that. We're going to do 4, so that'll give us 3 shells, so it'll be 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, a little tight, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then because it's a multiple of 4 plus 1, we're going to add one more. Alright, so now that we've finished our chain, we are going to put 4 double crochets into the 5th chain from the hook. So we're going to count in. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So down here is where our first double crochet is going to go. So there's 1. We're going to put 4 in total, so I need 3 more. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there is really our first shell. We have 4 double crochets in there. Now for this pattern, as long as you're creating the shells, you're going to skip 3 stitches and put 4 double crochets into the 4th chain. So we're going to do that again. We need 4 double crochets. We're skipping 3. 1, 2, 3. There's our 4th. I'm going to do 4 double crochets into this stitch. There's 1, 2. The reason they call it a shell pattern is it kind of fans the stitches out, and you end up with something that looks like a scallop shell. I actually have some scallop shells around here. I guess I should get one and I could show you. But I'm pretty sure we're all familiar with what a scallop shell looks like. There's the next one, so we're going to do it again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we need 4 more double crochets into this stitch. 1, 2, 3, And now again, you could have many more shells in this row. It's not a problem. But when you get to the end and you have 4 stitches left on this first row of shells, you are only going to put 2 double crochets into the last stitch, because that's going to be your turning row, and you want to have a nice square piece. 1, 2. Alright, so that was row 1. You can see we have 3 little shells here. So for the next row, it's just a row of single crochet, so you're going to chain 1 and turn, and then in the top of this, one of the second double crochet in that little cluster, that little mini cluster that you created, you're going to single crochet in that first stitch. You're going to single crochet all the way across and end with a single crochet in the top of the turning chain. So here's the first shell, so that's 1, 2, 3, turn my ball of yarn here, 4. Now we have 4 more for the next shell. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more for the next shell. 1, 2, 3. And now we want to end with a single crochet in the top of the turning chain. It always gets a little tight, so. And that's going to ensure that you end up with a very nice square piece of fabric or swatch here. Alright, so now we're ready to do another row of shells. So that single crochet row was row 2. That's important because for the first 3 row of shells, you'll have to go back. They're going to land in different spaces and ask for you to do it's going to be a different count on the single crochet row. So when you start the repeat, this is the single crochet row that you're going to be doing the actual physical repeat with. So the next row, you need to chain 3 and turn. This 3 does count as a double crochet. And now in the next stitch, you're going to put a double crochet. Alright, so that gets you started there. And now, just like before, you're going to skip 3 stitches and put 4 double crochets in that 4th stitch. So 1, 2, 3. 4 double crochets are going to go into this stitch. Now, what I want to show here is you'll note you're doing it correct because this stitch is above the space down below. It should be centered because your shells are going to be off-centered. Let me show you. From this piece, as you can see, here's a shell, and this is the space above it. So shell, they're off-centered. So that's 2, 3, and 4. We're going to do that again. We are working on row 3 here. So 1, 2, 3. You know you're correct because you're above the space below. So we're going to do 4 double crochets in this one. And then you're going to do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 double crochets in this one. It doesn't seem like this is going to come out square on this row, but it really does. Okay? And now what you're going to do is you're going to skip 1 stitch and put a double crochet at the top of the turning chain. But make sure that you skip a stitch here. I'm trying to find it. There's mine, so mine's over here. because that is going to, again, ensure that you have, see my little space there? It's going to make sure that this lays flat when you start working your way up. It doesn't seem like it's going to lay flat now, but it really does. Alright, so now we're ready for another row of single crochet. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. This is row 4. So we're going to start our single crochet at the top of this first shell, and we're going to go all the way across and end at the top of the chain 3. So here's the first one in the shell. I usually count by shell, so I know for sure that I've got exactly where I needed to be when I end, because sometimes the top of my chain, my turning chain, gets a little tight and I forget where I'm at and I might skip a stitch and I don't want to tear it back out. So this is the 3rd stitch of the 2nd shell, 4th stitch of the 2nd shell. So I got 4 stitches for this shell. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now for this one, we're at the end, and this is where I put the double crochet next to the chain 3 and then skip to do the shell. We're going to put the single crochet in the top of the double crochet, then we're going to put a single crochet in the top of the turning chain. See, it makes that row, it's a nice flat side. So now we're ready for another row, of double crochet, and that this row of shells actually ends the repeat row, or the repeat pattern. You will then, after this row is when you go back and you start with 2. So then you do 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 over and over and over again. So we chain 3. We're going to turn. We're going to skip 1. We're going to skip this starting stitch and put a double crochet at the center, or it's actually 2 stitches in, which puts you over the center of the space below. So you need 4 double crochets in that stitch. Get myself some more yarn here. That one I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, just like before, we're going to skip 3 stitches and put a double crochet in the 4th stitch, which again is center above the space below. That's just a way, especially if you're going to make a larger piece like a blanket or something that uses the shell stitch, you can kind of keep yourself in check that you're doing the correct thing because your shells are staggered. If they ever become not staggered, then you know that you miscounted, or maybe you missed a stitch on your single crochet row. You can also know kind of where to tear back to, because you just tear back to where your stitches stopped being one over the space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just continuing on, forging forward, excuse me, with my shell pattern here, putting 4 double crochets in that next stitch. Okay, so now we're at the end of this row. So what you want to do is skip the 3 and put 2 double crochets in that last stitch. 1, 2, 3. You should be at the top of your turning chain, and just like you did in that first row of shells, you're just going to put 2 double crochets into that stitch. Now you are at the end of row 5, and you are ready to pick up with another row of single crochet and continue with the pattern starting with row 2. Thank you for watching this tutorial of how to create the basic shell pattern. It's the easy shell pattern. if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below this video, or if you are watching this on my blog, just leave a comment below and I will get to them as soon as possible. Thank you again and have a great day.